Los Angeles, we are here. The week of the main event has finally arrived. The battle for the victory bell is mere days away as our USC Trojans face off against our UCLA Bruins at the Rose Bowl, 5 p.m. kickoff here in Pasadena. And this is episode 3 of the Victory Bell Selection Show. We are talking all about this concurrent game, looking at the key matchups for both of these teams as they come in, both ranked in the top 20. We'll get into it. Obviously, unfortunately, UCLA dropped a tough one to fall back a little bit. USC moved up a spot in the rankings to 7th overall. And obviously, this game means a lot in terms of bragging rights in LA, but also for their current path to the college football playoff. So with that being said, let's announce and introduce the panel, the best in the business. 4 guys joining me covering both teams. Start to my, I don't even know whatever to say because it's screen right, screen left, stage right, stay left. But I'm looking at to my right, which is Mr. Will Decker, host of the Bruin Bible. What's up, Dirty Chai? How you doing?
Doing great. Love the intro. I'm fired up. But fellas, we have officially made it. UCLA minor setback last week for a major comeback coming into this weekend. We got 2 top 20 teams in college football playing each other in a rivalry game. The Victory Bell game is officially back, folks. We're loving life.
That's right. That's right. Going diagonal across the boxes. Our USC beat writer and co-host of Salute to Troy, Mr. Phil Robinson. What's up, my man?
Ryan, I'm going to need you to put the proper amount of respect on USC's name when you introduce them. When you talk about 2 top 20 teams, I think you need to just reflect USC as top 10 and looking at the college football playoffs as long as they take care of business. Whereas our counterparts to my left, they're lucky to be at, 15?
Hey, I'm Switzerland here. I just stay right in the middle. I'm just keeping it classy for both sides, trying to keep it even keel and independent. So let's go back to the UCLA side. My co-host on the LA Football Show also does a lot of stuff with the Bruin Bible and writes about our UCLA Bruins, Mr. Jamal Madney. What's up, man? How we doing?
Doing well, Ryan. Excited to get into this one. It feels like we talk about this game for 364 days. And we're very close to the one day where we actually get it on the field with the team that has 2 top 15 victories, the UCLA Bruins, against the team with no top 15 victories, the USC Trojans.
All right, there you go. And last, but certainly not least, the coach on the show and the former player of your USC Trojans, Long Beach Poly alum, Coach Alfred Rowe. What's up, brother? How we doing?
I'm doing well.
We learned after last week that's not double birds, so we're good.
It's 11 national championships.
Yeah.
11.
I'm doing well. I just hear a lot of complaining in public school stuff. You know what I mean? We beat top 15 teams twice, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, it's lonely at the top, and we're looking down on you like we normally do as far as education, as far as quality of school, as far as quality of life. We're still at the top looking down on you little baby bears trying to be us. And it's okay. Like I said, the irony is the better schools in the hood and the public raggedy schools in a nice neighborhood. I don't know how they messed that up in California, but at the end of the day, it's lonely at the top. There's a tiger in our way that shouldn't be in our way, but that's SEC bias. But I am excited for this weekend. Let the trash talking begin.
Yes, that was a great way to kick it off. I've always wondered that, Alfred, being not from California and being the true UN Peace Corps here, because I went to Long Beach State. I always wondered why the location and where USC sits and how that kind of came about. But that's neither here nor there. Another story for another day.
I will just give you a little tidbit. It's a little political, but it's called redlining. And SC ended up on the wrong side of the red line.
There you go. There you go. So anyone listening that doesn't know, you can look that up now. There's a little homework for you. Redlining here in LA. Not the red line that goes to Hollywood, but maybe that's how it got its name. Who knows? All right. So getting into this game, how we got here. USC had a sleepy first quarter to Colorado, but came back, ended up winning 55-17, had a huge loss of Travis Dye in that game, who will not be playing in this game and will be out for the season. That obviously is very detrimental. I'm sure we'll talk about that throughout this show. UCLA hosted Arizona. Unfortunately, just could never get all pieces going at the same time. There were times when the offense was clicking. There was times when the defense was clicking, but they could never put everything together for a full, back-to-back drives or whatnot, and ended up falling short against Arizona and fell back in the rankings. What are they 16 in the CFP? I know they're 16 in the AP. Are they 16 in the CFP also? 16 overall. So a 7 versus 16. And before we even get into it, gentlemen, I have to say this. I know
Ryan, my fingers is feeling a little light. So
go ahead. Just hold it on there and hold it up for unity.
My fingers are feeling a little light, so I had to make it better. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue doing what you were doing. I apologize.
For those listening on podcast and not watching on video, what let the people know what you just put on there.
Oh, I put on championship Pac-10 championship / Rose Bowl rings. See? On the Rose Bowl. It says it right here.
Oh, it's the Rose Bowl. I love it.
Right here, look, it says
little things right here.
What does that say?
I see it. But
on the Rose Bowl.
That's great. You better be wearing that on Saturday.
I have to decide which Rose Bowl ring I want. I might as well wear on the Rose Bowl because it's the day we're going to take our lease back and evict the poor tenants that live there.
Might as well wear it. And I cannot wait till we're all in person for this real trash talking to get down.
Interrupt. Go ahead. Go finish talking about what we were talking about.
So what I was going to say first, as we get into this game, I've had this dream. I've mentioned it many times. I think even on this selection show, I've definitely mentioned it offline to all you guys. I for sure have but just talked Jamal's ear about this. But I've had this dream of this game actually meaning something again, like it used to, and and it always means something. So I'm not saying like that, but in terms of national relevance, having it really have a impact and get the recognition that it deserves, because it is such a powerful rivalry. It's the only rivalry in college football that is separated by a mere 15 miles. You look at all the great ones, Michigan, Ohio State, they're states away. You look at Alabama, Auburn, they're miles and miles and miles, cities away. You look at some of the other ones, nothing is separated merely by a few neighborhoods, and everyone grew up together in the same high schools, in the same cities, and now they go on opposing sidelines for this game. And so the fact that, unfortunately, with the falter of UCLA, it's not quite as big, but still, if you would have told me back in August that at this game, both teams would be ranked 16 and above, I would be very thrilled with that. So with that being said, let's toss it over. We'll start with Will. I don't know if we started with you last episode or not, but we'll start with you again. What's your excitement level for this game? Because we've been talking about it a lot. And then what is one, because we're going to talk key matchups in this game. So I'll let you start. What is one key matchup that you cannot wait to watch unfold on the field?
Well, to give my excitement level at a level of a 10, it is a 12. I mean, this is the game we've been waiting for all year. Two teams in the top 20. We just want this rivalry to be as big as it is in LA. We want this to be national once again, and we're on our way to getting there. A little setback, like I mentioned, with the U of A loss, a tough loss. We had our eyes prepared on this game all season long. This is the game that we're getting to, and hopefully we take care of business in this game. And there's a lot of interesting matchups on the football field themselves, but the key matchup that I'm going to be looking upon are not players on the field, but the two coaches at the helm of each team. And the term genius gets thrown around a lot when you talk about, sports, art, music, culture, whatever it may be. These two coaches are legitimate offensive geniuses in very different ways. Lincoln Riley, 34 years old, gets the Oklahoma head coaching job. Think about how many people can get that level of a job at that age. And he has diagrammed one of the best passing attacks throughout his career in college football, whether it was with Baker Mayfield, whether it was with Kyler Murray. By the way, back-to-back Heisman trophies with those guys. And then he takes it to USC. And even as a UCLA fan, my heart sank because I knew this was one of the 5 coaches that UCLA fans could not let USC get in terms of Lincoln Riley coming there. Lincoln Riley, the passing attack is his bread and butter. We got Caleb Williams with Jordan Addison, and a slew of other great receivers, Mario Williams, Brendan Rice, Tahj Washington, people of that nature. And you just look back on what he was able to do at Oklahoma, CeeDee Lambs, Hollywood Brown. The vertical passing attack is where they're best at, and Caleb Williams has a chance to be better than both of those quarterbacks I mentioned in Baker and Kyler. Chip Kelly, on the other hand, is a very different coach, but also a genius. He is a genius in the rushing attack. When this man was at his peak in Oregon, NFL offensive coordinators were stealing this guy's plays and implementing them into their offense. If you want to go look at just how genius this guy is as a rushing attack game planner, turn on the Arizona State film a couple weekends ago. Top running back gone, and this team ran for 402 yards on the ground. He does it year in and year out. The spread offense has been adopted by, many different areas, but he is the forefather of that. So for me, the key matchup in this game is the genius of the rush in UCLA and the genius of the pass for USC. This has a chance to be better than the Terry Donahue and John Robinson early battles in the late 70s to early 80s. And I can't wait to watch the first one play out on Saturday.
It's going to be a good one. It's a great matchup. Both polarizing coaches in very different way. You mentioned the genius, how different they are in their genius, but also just the personality, the swagger, the style, everything about these two coaches outside of maybe integrity and just being good men is polar opposite. And so that's what makes it so much fun. Just like these schools are kind of polar opposite. So it's so fitting where both these coaches are, where both these offenses are, and where this game is leading to. Phil, we'll go to you next. What's your hype level for this game? You are coming down for it from Northern California. We cannot wait to have you and have a good time with you at the tailgate. And then what is one key matchup that you cannot wait to watch on the field?
Listen, I'm going to try to keep this low key and even keel. The excitement level is growing, and at some point, I'm sure I'll start screaming, jump up and throw off this blanket and start telling you about how excited and how much and how hype I am ready for this game. Now, oh man, I said my man Will has talked about how they've had it circled on their calendar. Let me tell you about myself. I have been watching this team, and throughout this entire season, me and Al have circled 3 games on the schedule. UCLA and Utah were the 2 largest tests that I saw for SC coming up. Now, Notre Dame has got it back under control, but nobody cares. We'll worry about them when they come up. This game right here means so much to so many people in SC, UCLA, and the players. Right now, this is Caleb Williams' Heisman campaign game. So he's pretty much down to 2 games, this one and the game against Notre Dame, to prove that he is the best player, the premier player, the superstar across the entire nation here in Los Angeles with the SC Trojans. And I can't wait to see what he does against DTR, another player who I think is equally fiery, possesses equal amounts of skill, and can do equally impressive things with the football. I've watched DTR take games over. I've watched him do it with his legs, and I've seen the heart of the champion beat in his chest. Now, I don't know about the rest of the team that can to match his intensity quite like SC can, but I know that he alone is there. He alone will be up for that challenge. He will be able to lead the UCLA Bruins in battle against Caleb Williams' SC Trojans. They just won't emerge victorious. I am pumped again. I cannot wait to see QB1 versus QB1, because to me, that is the premier matchup on the field is between the quarterbacks. Those are the 2 best players on their respective teams, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, well said. 2 of the best quarterbacks in the nation, both semifinalists for the Quarterback of the Year award. I think they both may make it on to the next round too. I think certainly Caleb will, and DTR, if there's no bias, I think should as well, for what he's been able to do in not just the passing game, but the running game. Jamal and I have talked a lot about these 2 quarterbacks and about defining moments. And DTR had a chance last week to have a season-defining moment on that last drive, a signature, maybe not win in terms of ranked opponent, because he got those actually against Washington and Utah, but a signature moment in a game-defining drive when you had to have it. Unfortunately, came up short. Caleb, on the other hand, if you want to call game-defining moments, you could maybe look at the Oregon State game, and when he did it with his legs on that 4th down with the push at the end by his offensive lineman to get it, or you can even look at the Arizona game, when on 4th and 1 to salt the game away, he keeps it, gets the 1st down. But this game is truly going to be the season-defining moment for both of these quarterbacks, as they have an opportunity to stamp their legacy, not just on this season, but potentially on careers at USC. Now, I know Caleb Williams has another year to play, but that's why this game means so much. So, Jamal, over to you now. How pumped are you for this game? What matchup are you looking forward to?
Yeah, Ryan, I'm always pumped for this game. If I'm giving you a number here, I'm at a 9. I think I would have been full on 10 if we were able to close things out against Arizona. But this is certainly, I'm at a 9, and it'll probably get to 37 by the time kickoff starts. For me, it's a very loaded question, what you asked about matchups, because the matchups we've talked about right now, I love them all. And I completely agree with them all. Coach on coach, but neither of those guys are on the field. Caleb, DTR, neither of those guys are on the field at the same time. When you look at breakdown of who's going to play in this game, I think there's still some questions around that. Eric Gentry, Jordan Addison, Mario Williams, Kaz Allen. So when you sort of put all of those collective pieces on the table, now I think all of those players are going to give it a go, given the magnitude of this game. But when it comes down to effectiveness, that really impacts what the matchups are going to be. To me, the key matchup in this game that will define who will win this game and who will not is the 007 matchup, is what I'm calling it. And that is the spy. Who UCLA is going to spy with on Caleb Williams is going to define how this game goes. Because Caleb Williams has made a living off of extending plays this season, rolling out and allowing his great athletes on the outside to ultimately break down inferior athletes on defense and find open spots. He's done it so much so that you and I talked about this. I actually think he's getting into some bad habits and actually is coming off his worst performance of the season. When you couple that with how UCLA has struggled this year, we talked a lot about the dual threat quarterback. Well, Cam Rising is a dual threat quarterback, but he's a guy who's going to throw, or he's a guy who's going to be a straight line runner. The two guys that can be elusive enough to extend plays to then choose at a later moment whether or not to pass or run were Bo Nix and Jayden de Laura. And both of those guys caused absolute fits for UCLA, and non-coincidentally, UCLA was 0-2 in those games. So I think it forces UCLA to say, look, our linebackers collectively played very poorly in those two games. We cannot rely on levels of our defense schematically. We have to put one guy whose whole and sole job is to keep Caleb contained with gap integrity in the pocket and not let him extend those plays into 8, 10, 12 seconds like he's been doing the last couple of weeks. And so that individual is either going to be, in my opinion, Carl Jones Jr. or JonJon Vaughns. And I think it'll be Carl Jones Jr. because JonJon Vaughns provides a great element of pass coverage defense as being able to slide him back into the secondary and provide an extra defender and extra traffic for those receivers. So for me, it's going to be that Caleb Williams, Carl Jones Jr. head-to-head matchup that's ultimately going to decide this game. If Carl Jones Jr. can even make life somewhat difficult for Caleb Williams, you're never going to stop him. You're never going to truly contain him. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's a phenomenal player, arguably the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. But if Carl Jones Jr. can make life difficult for Caleb Williams without Travis Dye, without Mario Williams, with a banged up Jordan Addison, without Eric Gentry, SC has no shot in this game.
All right. Yeah, that's going to be a absolutely fascinating matchup. And we talked about it, how Caleb is, is so athletic, so good out of the pocket, but we want to see him be able to throw more from the pocket. And if, they're able to force him to do that, we will see what unfolds. And equally as important would be if Eric Gentry does give it a go, which I think he will, like you alluded to. And I would assume he will be the QB spy on DTR, which obviously USC missed against Arizona when they played Jayden de Laura because they did not have Eric Gentry at their disposal. And Jayden de Laura went off similarly to like he did against UCLA. So that'll be another fun matchup to watch. But Alfred, last but not least, over to you. How hyped are you for this game? And what's the matchup you're most looking forward to?
It's rivalry week. The bell is coming home. We put it on loan. We put it on loan because the Bruins need a little bit of collateral. COVID and all that stuff. State schools funding was down and all that stuff. So we let them borrow it just in case they needed a new building. They couldn't afford a donor or anything like that. Neither here nor there. It's time to bring the bell back. Let me tell you why. I will say this. Let's just talk schematics first. The biggest matchup, right? The biggest matchup is Chip versus Alex Grinch.
Mm-hmm.
That is the biggest matchup. It's Chip versus Alex Grinch. And everybody, oh, well, this and that. It's Chip versus Alex Grinch. I will say this, and I'm going to tell you who I stole it from, and I'm going to say it again on Saturday. I stole this from Ryan, and it's one of the best things I've ever heard Ryan Dyrud say. SC needs 4 stops a game in order to win, right? They need 4 stops a game. When are those 4 stops going to come, right? We know one's always guaranteed to be a turnover. We know, and they've been excellent with doing it. But those other 3 stops, when are they going to happen, and when are they going to need it? One thing I will say about the Trojan defense is, for the most part, about 80% of the year, when they needed a stop, they were able to get it. There were times where they were unable to get the stop, and that's fine. The offense was able to overcome, other than Utah, where they lost the game when they really needed a stop. This is going to be a week where they really need a stop. I will tell you this. The first 2, 3, 4, 5 series don't matter because everybody's going to be playing above their head. They have to, once the game calms down, it gets into a flow, and we really see what happens, then that's when we're going to find out what type of game it's going to be. I also will say this. Gentry's going to play. Addison's going to play. Mario Williams is going to play. Lincoln Riley might fool the rest of America. We're not playing that game. Oh, we don't know. They're good to go. They've been on the bench, icing up, saved up. Here's the difference between USC and UCLA, right? Charbonnet, Bobo, DTR. Here's the difference between SC. Austin Jones, Kyle Ford, Tahj, Michael Jackson, Raleek Brown. Who did I not mention? Caleb Williams, Jordan Addison, Mario Williams. That's the biggest difference. The offensive depth for SC outnumbers the depth at UCLA. If Bobo gets hurt, DTR gets hurt, and there's no Charbonnet, the game plan changes. If Addison gets hurt, Williams gets hurt at the same time, oh, wait, the game plan doesn't change. They still put up 60-something points, right? If Travis Dye gets hurt, you might want to look out because this time it's going to be a little bit different because we're going to see a lot more gap scheme power game. It's going to be a lot more big boy football. Why is SC going to the Big Ten? Austin Jones is about to show you. So the whole fact, I'm super geeked, super pumped. This rivalry is back to what it was even when I played, right? We were better than them. We still lost. And there's still a possibility that SC might lose. But the possibility is small because of the depth. There's a lot more depth in South Central than it is in Westwood. And I think that depth is what is the outlier and will carry him over. We just need Alex Grinch to do what he does. We just need those 4 stops. And then we'll figure out what goes on. We'll get ready for Notre Dame.
There we go. Another good one. My key matchup is the scoreboard operator versus electricity, because this game is going to be like 75-70, and his fingers are going to get raw, and he's going to be just changing that score so often throughout this one. But watch, guys, watch this happen. Watch this end up being like a 24-21 game, and it's just like a defensive slugfest, and just chaos ensues. Wouldn't shock me. Like, we all think it's going to be so high scoring, and who knows? Maybe the defenses show up or the offenses get in their own heads and make mistakes or what. So that would not shock me at all. Well, okay, that would shock me, but I guess I've seen crazier things happen when it comes to college football. So, well, those are all good matches.
Say something to sort of address Alfred's point about the depth piece, because I really liked what he said.
Yes, please.
Alfred, I agree with you about the depth, but here's where I don't agree with you. And that is, there is a difference between depth and variety. USC offensively has depth. UCLA has variety. All the players that you mentioned are interchangeable with one another. Addison, Tahj, Michael Jackson III, none of those guys give you another dimension to the other. Okay, they all do the same or similar things. There were only 2 guys on USC's offense, in my opinion, that are capable of any sort of variety outside of these small, twitchy receivers, one of whom is on crutches right now, Travis Dye, And the other one, they don't seem to utilize as much as they should in Kyle Ford. And so while I agree with you that, okay, if 2 guys get hurt, you got another 2 or 3 guys, but that offense is going to plateau and stay the same. And if you're telling me USC is not going to miss having Travis Dye on the field, I'm not sure what you've been watching all season, because he's been their most valuable offensive player outside of Caleb Williams. And the things that they've done, running the ball, receiving the ball, without him. Austin Jones is a decent back. The guy was getting 300 yards at Stanford. I'm a Stanford graduate, all right? It doesn't take that much to get 300 yards at Stanford. You don't have to be that talented. This guy's an average running back at best, and Raleek Brown is not ready for prime time. You've said that yourself earlier this season. So there's a gaping deficiency here, Alfred, in the backfield. Let's not pretend that's not the case. When you look at UCLA and you see, I agree with you, that depth is not the same. Bobo's a big receiver, a possession receiver. Kaz Allen is going to hurt you from the backfield and hurt you in the bubble screen and be the deep threat. Charbonnet, the best running back in America. You have Colson Yankoff, who's the big hammer back there who can catch passes out of the backfield. And then, oh, by the way, we haven't even talked about Hudson Habermehl, Michael Ezeike, and Keegan Jones, who are going to get into those passing lanes in the middle of the field and confuse the hell out of those linebackers the way Utah did. This is a bad matchup for USC. I don't disagree with you about the depth of talent, but when you talk about strength on strength here, okay, the things that UCLA is very good at, running the football, confusing the linebackers in terms of second level of the defense, and then third, jamming those receivers at the line because they're all small guys and kind of weak. All 3 of those things UCLA has done all season, and all 3 of those things USC has been susceptible to. So I get it. UCLA's coming off a loss. Everyone's sleeping on them and thinking the season's over. But this is a bad matchup for USC. And if Caleb Williams does not put the Superman cape on, he's certainly capable of it, but he's going to need to put the cape on just to have them in this game, Alfred. If he just has an average game, I just don't see a path for USC in this game at all.
And if I can interject here too, the Alex Grinch hype is the most overblown coordinator I can remember in my history as a fan of college football. The USC,
I don't think there's any hype. I don't think there's any hype.
I'm just in total defense, USC is 87th in the country this year. UCLA has been the team that has been getting ripped defensively, and rightfully so, for their performances in the last few weeks against the likes of Oregon, Arizona, and University of Arizona. The UCLA team is 69th in total defense. Like, technically, you guys have a worse defense than us. So if Chip can,
agree.
I mean, I'm feeling pretty confident about Chip getting to our guy over there, Alex Grinch, early and often in that game.
Yeah,
that would be one thing to consider. But the USC defense is also leading the nation in turnovers. And if your boy DTR gets sloppy with the football, I can tell you very quickly it can get out of control for UCLA. It is that the line has got to hold up. Tui's leading the nation in sacks. So DTR is going to be looking over his shoulder and have to identify where number 49 is at all times. And to Jamal's point about the matchups, that matchup thing kind of goes both ways. Yes, if you stay and attack UCLA and not UCLA, but USC in the intermediate and the linebacker area, definitely have the advantage there. And that's where Chip and Alex Grinch are going to have the battle there, because Chip is going to be able to chip away at the USC weaknesses, which is run defense and covering tight ends. That is my key concern going into this game, is because it has been so glaring and Grinch has shown an absolute inability to address it that I just don't see how he's going to up and come up with a winning plan that's going to stop it, because he hasn't done it all year long. But I would argue that while the USC receivers are interchangeable, so the guy, as you said, the guy that's been underutilized is the tight end, and Austin Jones does bring a unique set of skills that you won't get from Travis Dye. So will it be exactly the same? No, but he's better in the screen game than Dye was. And if you get him out there on the edges and let him use his speed, he can definitely be at least serviceable and make a difference to keep UCLA honest.
I will say this. You guys are talking bad about Austin Jones, but Austin Jones is going to run power. I can tell you that right now. And if you can't stop power, I don't care who you got on offense.
Nope.
They are going to – Austin Jones is a legit downhill runner, and he runs hard, and he falls forward every single time. And I'm telling you right now, if Lincoln runs power, Austin Jones, I've been saying this the whole time on the Salute to Troy, it's going to be Brandon Rice. Brandon Rice is going to win the UCLA game. I changed that. If Lincoln runs power and Lincoln Riley runs counter and they run it with number 6 who's downhill and it works, it's going to be a long, long day for the Bruins. His production went down because they stopped giving him the ball. We ran for 111 against Fresno State. He had 8 carries for like 40-something yards with like 5-point-something yards a carry consistently. He is a great runner. I wouldn't say great, but he is better than what people think he is. I don't know what happened, and I'm not going to speculate, but you get what you ask for. And if this kid is going to earn a lot of playing time for next year and against Notre Dame. Now, as far as interchangeable, you're right. No receivers in that type of offense are interchangeable, I guess you could say. Chip Kelly doesn't run a traditional spread offense. He has his version to it. But if you look at the Art Briles, all the receivers run the same thing. They all do the same thing. That's 100%. I'm with you. The problem is that I could match up 6 people that are better than the defensive backs at UCLA on USC's roster. You can't do that with UCLA's roster, depth-wise. Like, what I'm saying is, if they're hurt, you take a big drop. With USC, if they're hurt, there's no drop. That's what I mean as far as depth. So, like even if Addison and Mario Williams doesn't play, there is no worry because there's no drop. If Bobo doesn't play, there's a drop. I'm not saying like the guy who replaces him isn't good enough to win. He might come out and have a big game like you said, was that Willard Jamal, the guy who was the backup walk-on quarterback and beat USC. Might happen. Not taking that from him. But on paper, there's a drop in talent with SC's, UCLA's twos compared to SC's. That's what I mean depth-wise. But as far as Austin Jones, you guys better wake up. Stop sleeping on him. The production was because of coaching. It wasn't because of his ability.
I couldn't agree with you more there. And you're spot on in terms of the depth. If UCLA lost their 2 best wide receivers over the course of a 1-month period, I mean, you're talking about 4 straight L's there. There's no doubt about that. And so I agree with you 100%. Now, having said that, in this particular game, UCLA doesn't have any injuries to their top guys, and they're going to be ready to go. So that gets offset in that particular case. I don't disregard Austin Jones in any way, shape, or form. I think he's a very serviceable back. I agree with you. He brings a dimension that Travis Dye cannot. But for whatever reason, he couldn't win the starting job at Stanford. He couldn't win the starting job at USC. Now, maybe all of those coaches, Lincoln Riley included, missed something. But chances are he's a very good downhill runner. He will fall forward, but he's limited. And Phil, I disagree about his ability in the pass game. That was where Travis Dye really separated himself as a weapon in this Lincoln Riley offense. And I think that when you look at the thickness of that UCLA defensive line, they've always gotten in trouble with the Travis Dyes of the world, of losing gap contain, getting way too aggressive, and letting these shifty guys go and get these huge gains. When it's these methodical runners, they're not going to be they don't need that quick reaction time to totally blow their gaps, their assignments. And I think that Austin Jones is going to win some battles. That UCLA defensive line is going to win some battles. And I think to your point there, Alfred, the key comes down at the end of how much time Caleb is going to have, right? Because what you're saying is, look, our athletes are better than your athletes. And if you end up having this be a 7, 8, 9 second play, USC is going to win out. And I'm not disagreeing with that. But what I'm saying is, what is it going to take now to be able to hurry Caleb Williams? Because the one thing that isn't being talked about, and I'd love to get your guys' take on this, is the one area Caleb Williams is not pro material right now, in my opinion, is down the field accuracy. When you watch him throw the football 20 yards and above, he's spraying the ball all over the yard. And the last couple of weeks, he's been relying on just his wide receivers getting open and buying so much time and dancing around until there's just a defensive breakdown and it becomes a much easier throw. But he's been missing a lot of throws down the field. And these UCLA guys, they play aggressive. They're going to get burnt a little bit, but they're also going to win some battles. And so to me, can Caleb consistently throw the ball down the field is going to be another really key thing to watch in this particular game, because that's the one thing he hasn't shown yet. And Phil, to sort of your last point on the turnover piece, yeah, SC has been killing it on the turnovers, but how many of that was the first 3 games? I mean, Rice was 5 turnovers. Oregon State was 4 turnovers. Stanford was 4 turnovers. They haven't really taken the ball very much after those first 3 weeks. They're sort of living off of that September reputation. So when you put all of that together, guys, I got to be honest, in a 1-game scenario, this is a bad matchup for SC. It really is.
When Jack Plummer's dicing you up from Cal, DTR is going to be on our sideline this time, a veteran within the Pac-12 that, is going to turn some heads with what he's going to be doing on Saturday. So I'm excited.
DTR is a mental midget. He's still mad SC flipped him off last year.
I love this matchup because every week I lean one way, who has the advantage, and it comes down to, I think at the end, which we'll talk a lot on Saturday, is really which premier player plays best. Is it Caleb, or you could argue whether it's DTR or Charbonnet? I think Charbonnet is truly the true premier player on UCLA's offense, but which premier player has the better game will determine the outcome, and we're going to get all into that. So let's wrap up with this, gentlemen. This has been a great spirited debate, very respectful debate, but very spirited. I love it. I cannot wait till we're all sitting together on the Brookside golf course with beers in front of us, having this in person, because it's probably going to get a lot more spirited when we're all together, which will be a lot of fun. But let's end with this. In the state of respect, and we all work together, we're all colleagues, this is going to be the final question. Who is the player, not named Caleb or DTR, who is the player on the opposing team that you are most worried about? Could be an offensive player, defensive player, special teamer, whoever. Just what player are you like, man? Again, not, all right, let's take out Charbonnet too, just because that's an obvious one. Besides Charbonnet, DTR, and Caleb, who's the player you're most concerned about? Will, I'll start with you.
Well, this one's kind of an obvious one too, but I just didn't know how he was going to implement to the West Coast, and that's Jordan Addison. I mean, he is by far and away, we do a draft show with my buddy below me, Jamal Madney. Jordan Addison has been everything as advertised and more when he's been healthy this year, dating back to the Stanford game this year where he's burning, pro corners and Kyle Blue Kelly and different players to the end zone for 6. The game-saving touchdown he had against Oregon State. He is just such a talent in terms of gaining separation and, getting open in the, deep field, just to make plays and things of that nature. So for me, it's Jordan Addison, especially with a secondary of UCLA's caliber. We rank in the late 90s when it comes to pass coverage this year and pass coverage allowed. Secondary has always been Chip Kelly's weakness. When you have a talent like Jordan Addison on your side, going against the likes of a UCLA, it's going to be scary as hell. Even with a lead, I'm going to be worried with Jordan Addison out on the field there and his connection with Caleb Williams. So that is the guy for me that I am worried about and will be losing sleep about when it comes to this game.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. Phil, I'll go to you next, but I think that this is just my opinion, because obviously Lincoln wouldn't admit this, but I think last game Jordan Addison was basically put out on the field just to run some routes, get the blood pumping, get his legs under him. They didn't want to put him in any harm's way. Literally watching the game, every route he was running was a 20-yard plus route. If he broke open, great. If not, cool, you're getting your legs under him. So I think it'll be fun to actually watch him implemented back in the offense this week against UCLA like he had been, the first 6 games of the season. So Phil, over to you. Who's on UCLA, or even if you don't have a particular player, maybe a position that you're most concerned about?
I am most worried about the edge position because I've seen a lot. The tackles have been shaky for USC lately. And while Caleb Williams has stockpiled a bunch of touchdowns and run for a bunch of yards, we've seen him run for his life. We've seen him have problems with rushes from teams like Oregon State, teams that you wouldn't expect him to have problems with because the pass protection has not held up. One of the things that will be missing from Travis Dye being out is the blitz pickup and the pass pro pickups that he's used to seeing. Now, to a Jamal's credit about the accuracy issues, when you suddenly start throwing to different receivers, and I'm not making any excuses, he's got to hit guys who are open. But when those aren't the guys that you've been throwing to all season long and you're adjusting on the fly, there's going to be some mishaps. But the defensive edge position, the pass rushes, is what worries me the most. Where that's really the only thing that I think that Caleb Williams will have problems with is if the pass rush is able to get to him and on top of the spy that's over the top waiting for him to break out and do his thing on the ground.
Yeah, that's a great one, Phil. I think nationally UCLA has not gotten the respect of what they're able to do on the outside with, Laiatu Latu and others, the Murphy twins, and just those edge rushers that can really get after the quarterback. And, we've seen it a lot, obviously, all of us here covering this team, but that's definitely one that will be an interesting one to watch as, USC's had some guys banged up on the offensive line too. Again, expect them all to play, but not maybe 100%. So that'll be fun to watch. Jamal, over to you. Who are you most concerned about on USC?
Most concerned about, Ryan, is Gentry. I think there's no question about that for me. When you talk about a 6'6" linebacker, you just don't see guys like that. And what he can potentially do as a spy, as you mentioned earlier, I think he can completely change the game. Because here's the thing. When your spy is taller than the guy that he's spying, that's a little problematic, right? When you're 6'6" as Gentry and DTR on a good day is 6'4", really 6'3", how is DTR's field of view going to be affected by Gentry bearing down on him? And how is DTR, the question with DTR over the past 5 years has always been how seamlessly, how smoothly, how effortlessly, how logically can he go through his progressions and be able to hit the right guy at the right time? That's always been a question. We haven't asked that question with this added variable of having a spy who's taller than you, who can pretty much eliminate your field of view. So that to me is the one game changer. I think Tuipulotu is a phenomenal player. I think he's going to get a couple sacks in this game, but I think this is one of those games where 2nd and 17 isn't going to matter a whole hell of a lot, especially early in this game. The one guy that really scares me that isn't the headliner on offense that can change the course of this game, not just a play here and a play there, but consistently being a force, drive over drive, quarter over quarter, to me is Eric Gentry. And his help is going to really be paramount in determining the outcome of this game. So I got all eyes on Gentry's first drive to see what his health really is. How's that ankle holding up?
Yeah, 100%. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jamal, but we had talked about a few weeks ago going into this game, our big three of each team, and this was obviously before the Dye injury, was Caleb Williams, Travis Dye, Eric Gentry on the USC side, and was DTR, Zach Charbonnet, and Laiatu Latu on the UCLA side. So we kind of took a little different approach there, and obviously Gentry falls right into that and will be very important in this game. All right, as always, last but not least, Coach Rowe, who are you most concerned about?
Oh, I was putting on championship rings. I'm sorry. UCLA guys don't know about that. Anyway, actually, I'm concerned about two people, but they came from the same moon and the same egg, I guess you could say. But
Yep.
11 and 12, 12, 13, whatever. They call them both Murph. They dress alike, I hear, have the same hair, identical twins. Those Murphy twins have some shit to them. And they're pretty good, and there's something to be worried about up front. I will, like Phil said, I will say this about SC's line, and this is I'm not going to be a homer. They're not great, but they've been good enough all year, right? So, are they going to be able to be good enough? That's the question that you have to ask. And if they're good enough on Saturday, SC wins, right? If they don't do enough, then SC still wins, but they only win by 3 in the game. It's closer than it should have been. But it's what number are they? 11 and 12, right? 11 and 12. Yeah. So 11 and 12. They like bring the shit. Like, I will say this one thing about Chip. For a long time, UCLA has been known as soft. And like 11 and 12 kind of changes that. They get penalties that they're not supposed to get, and who cares if you get upset about it? Like, they just don't accept it. Like, one game they both got a penalty because his brother got a penalty. Like, so they'll cause problems in the middle, and like if things go right, we're going to see we should see a lot of power in the running game because of Austin Jones. They're an issue with power because they'll clog the middle. Right, those are two big dudes in the middle that will cause issue with power. And when you get that pulled and down block, they'll create the gap problems and all that, and they'll be able to fill 2 gaps. So the Merck twins will be the one that will keep me up at night if I was worried about. I guess you said 1, but technically they came from the same place, so I guess that counts as 1, right?
That's fair. And they're from your boys' school, right?
Yeah, so they are from the Mean Green, which are going bowling, which is good for the network. We'll just keep it at that.
There you go. Going bowling, baby. So,
as long as Mean Green win, the LAFB network is doing good.
Yeah, we're winning. We're winning here. So, all right. Well, I'll end it. I'll do both. I'll take a stab at both, playing both sides, and I'll do 2 names that weren't mentioned, but 2 names that play the same position. So if I'm UCLA, the player that I'm most concerned about is on the back end of USC's defense, Mr. Keegan Bullock, who has been one of the best safeties, I think, in the Pac-12, plays the great center field position. If a quarterback takes a chance and kind of just hucks the ball up, Keegan Bullock's probably going to get himself underneath it and intercept that ball. And DTR has been way better this year in terms of not being foolish with the football, but there has been a few instances, and they haven't really cost him, but where he's running for his life and then kind of just chucks it up and hope that, Bobo or someone can make a play. And that's where Keegan Bullock can come in and really make a play on that. And if I'm USC looking at the same position, Stephan Blaylock, who's been in, powder blue for about 12 years, is another guy who's one of the captains of the defense, is so integral to what they do on the back end. Just a team leader and a guy that they were able to get over losing early in that Utah game when he got ejected for the targeting call, and they were able to get by without him, but you could still see how important he is to that defense. So those are the 2 guys I will end it with. But gentlemen, any final closing remarks, thoughts, concerns, or are we all good to wrap this episode 3 of the Victory Bell Selection Show up?
I will say this, and you don't have to answer right now. Wait, I want to confirm it though, but I think the over 76 points. So y'all think about that for the next couple of days, and we'll talk about it on Saturday. But let me just confirm it. I'll confirm it. I'll pull it up right now. Hold on. SC's negative 2.5, but the over is 76 points. So the points
hammering that over.
The points are 76. If you think it's that, then you go to betonline.ag, put in promo code BELIEVE, and we'll match your 50% first deposit, and you play the over or the under.
There you go. Well done. I didn't even get that in there. Attaboy, he's been doing
elite.
This.
In the words of Martin Jarman, that was elite, Coach Alfred Rowe. Wow.
Yeah, well done. BetOnline.ag, yeah. 76. Man, that's low. I'm hammering that. Off topic, but I don't know if you guys remember in, 2018, the Rams-Chiefs Monday Night Football game, one of the best regular season games, 55-51. That live line kept changing like every 10 minutes it was like started at like 50, then it went up to 60. At one point it was at 100. And obviously the game ended at, 106 was the total between the two. But yeah, the live lines were shifting. I think this game will probably go up from 76, maybe pretty quickly, but we shall see. So
my end is I can't wait to be with you boys on Saturday. It's going to be fun. Everybody tune in. Are we going to be live like the draft? I deserve a live show like the draft because I feel like I was cheating at the draft. It'll be live. Go on YouTube. This is going to be so much fun, man. I'm so happy. I'm just speaking from first thing I want to address is that Jamal's pretty much graduated from every rival in the Pac-12. So I don't know how he gets along in life. He went to Cal, UCLA, Stanford, SC, graduated from them all. So he's just torn. But anyway, I'm so excited, man. We get to do this. I'm so happy this rivalry is back to where it needs to be, and we get to have fun with it. The network gets to take advantage of it. We get to have fun. I just can't wait to see you boys, man. We get to do this thing live and hope everybody tunes in.
It's going to be a blast. We will be on the golf course bright and early. Come say hi. Any Trojans fans out there, if you want any information about it, text Trojans to 31032. Any Bruins fans out there, text UCLA to 31032. You can do the other one if you want to join that cohort, but that'll keep you separated if you want, or follow us on Twitter at LAFB Network. We'll be dropping all the info of where we're at, but we will be on Brookside Golf Course, hanging out, cooking up some food, watching football, talking football, playing football. We'll have giveaways, all that sorts of stuff. It's going to be a blast with all 4 of you fellas. Plus, we'll have some others. Brittany Betts, Paula B with our tailgate takeover going to be there. There's going to be like 10 or 12 of us, so it's going to be a blast. But we can't wait. This is episode 3 of the Victory Bell Selection Show. Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you all on Saturday. I don't know if I can do this, but I'll do a 4 and a fight on. Does that work?
I'll just do this.
And that'll do it. Everyone take care.
We'll say
see
this
y'all on Saturday.
I just read an article that said that California has to pay $52 billion. So this game won't be as fun anymore because UCLA is going to be broke, state funded. You know how that goes.
There it is. That's the way to end it. See you all on Saturday. Take care.